Now, what if Gran Turismo was on mobile? What would it handle like? What kind of cars would be in there? What would the graphics be like? What tracks would there be? That's what I want you to keep in mind during this video on Infinite Drive, where I'm going to review Infinite Drive for you. Because Infinite Drive is one of the most interesting racing games that's come across my plate in recent times. A lot of racing game companies get in touch with me asking me to review their games, and I almost never do. But Infinite Drive, well, it could become the Gran Turismo of mobile, and in this video I'm going to show you why. Now, they've partnered with Aston Martin. We just saw some Aston Martins on the screen here. They're going to be officially licensed and in the game, which is great. I like the fact that this mobile game has these official partnerships, and as we're going to see in this kind of stock footage I've got on screen at the moment, they've got a lot more partnerships too. Now, who makes this game? It's a company called Tiny Digital Factory. They made, or the people behind it made Test Drive Unlimited, which is one of my favorite games of all time. And they also make other racing games on mobile. They're a mobile racing game developer. They make a game called GT Manager, which looks quite interesting when I've ever played. And Infinite Drive, I think, is their most ambitious project ever. They call it a racing platform. And we're going to go into it, but this is going to contain free roam. It's going to contain championships. It's going to contain ownership of cars and clubs and renting cars and all this kind of exciting stuff. But I'm going to go through each facet of the game. We're going to start with the graphics and move on to handling and so forth. So these are the graphics of the game right now, running on an Android phone. This is running on a Samsung Galaxy Ultra, so it's a very decent phone. And in the garage here, you can see the graphics are, for a mobile game, in my opinion, insane. Have a look at the reflections on the floor. Have a look at the way the light glints off the car. Have a look at the reflection of the lights, obviously, on the car. The translucency of the headlights, the detail in the rims and the brakes and the brake calipers. You can even see the letters on the back of the car, like Alpine, how the light glints off them because they're, all 3D rendered. The graphics here are absolutely mad, and there is a drawback to that, and the drawback to that is that on my phone at least, it struggles to render these in the actual race game itself. So I want to show you, with just full transparency, this is what the game looks like on my phone on the highest setting. So I'm actually going to let the game start here, and I'm going to pause it so we can just explore like a snapshot of the game. Now, pros and cons. The pros are these graphics, in my opinion. I used to play a lot of racing games on mobile, like, Real Racing 3 and all the other ones. Look at the graphics on the tarmac here. You've got the tents on the right hand side, buildings in the distance, and there's hills, and it's kind of got that haze over it. You've got the gantry, you've got the pit boards with the, you see the positions on it, the car itself, the reflections on the car of the sky and the trees as well. You've got shadows. I mean, these graphics are really, really good for a mobile game. Really, really good. But I think in this camera, my phone at least struggles to render this at an acceptable frame rate. I think it heats up quite quickly. See the gravel on the outside here. I should say, by the way, this footage here, I'm using a test Alpine car. This car, the handling characteristics are absolutely insane and not very realistic. There's a plane there as well. As we corner there at a casual 120 miles an hour. We'll look at the Aston Martins next, which are the kind of proper cars they gave me access to that handle normally. But the graphics are really, really, really good. And if you have a phone that can handle it, you're going to have a crazy, crazy good graphical experience on mobiles. Just testing there whether you can do a burnout, and you can. We'll get onto the handling in just a little bit. There's a crane there as well. I don't know. I mean, let me know in the comments kind of what console games you would compare these graphics to. Now, when I went into bonnet camera, the game ran a little bit more fluidly for me. But I'm a sim racer. I'm all about, I want to be as fast as possible around the track. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to slam those graphics down. I'm going to slam them down to the minimum setting, and we're going to try and run at the highest possible frame rate. But before I do that, I want to show you again, just on the high settings, on bonnet camera, this is as good as the game is going to look. You get a bit of glare from the sun as well. And there's basically just a ton of detail going on. So this is not a racing game where I think they've skimped on the environmental quality. They've spent a lot of time, the artists have, in terms of making these racetracks. And this is a fictional racetrack in Italy, by the way. But it really gives you that feeling that you are in at least a simcade racing game, because it's taking it seriously on the track details. Right, So now what we're going to do is we're going to see this running at the fastest possible frame rate on my phone. Let's go. So here we are at Fuji, and I've slammed everything down. I slammed my phone resolution down, and I slammed the game down onto minimum. And this is actually, to my personal taste, this is what I love. I just love running at the highest possible frame rate. And it looks a bit more like a PSP game now, but that suits me absolutely fine. And I'm going to talk about the controls here, because the controls are, I think, the most important area for Infinite Drive to focus on, because I spent a lot of time getting to the point you're seeing on this video, and until that point, I was fighting the controls. So everything they can do to make the controls more intuitive, they should do. This footage is now me driving. The really weird thing for me that I was not expecting at all is that I'm in the zone right now in the same way as if I was driving a GT3 car at Fuji in Gran Turismo 7 on my PS5. I'm trying to do the same sort of lines. I'm trying to do the same sort of techniques, trying to brake here as late as possible in a straight line. Then we're going to get off the brake, as you're going to see, apply a bit of throttle turn in, and then I've lift again, and then we're going to apply a bit more, lifting a little bit more, trying to control the oversteer. This is Sector 3 at Fuji, one of the most difficult sectors known to man. It's just the worst sector in the world of a racetrack. So twisty, very difficult even on my PS5 with my whole sim racing equipment. But you can see here I'm really interested in it, and at this moment right now, to be completely honest with you, this game was blowing my mind slightly, because I was thinking, hang on a second, I'm on my phone here, I don't have any equipment, I'm just literally tilt steering, and I'm having a genuine, at least Simcade quality experience. And I got really into this game at this point. So I set this lap time as a 131.4, I think, and I basically just kept trying to beat it. And this is when I had a real eureka moment, because you can see here I'm racing my Ghost, and as we go into turn 1 on this lap, I'm going to go a little bit deeper. I'm going to try and brake a little bit later. I go deep into corner, I cut back, and you can see here there is my Ghost car that had taken a slightly better line, and I'm now racing with the Ghost on mobile in the same way that I would do on Gran Turismo 7. And you can see the Ghost there, my Ghost went a bit wide, so we're going to try and catch up. And this is what it's kind of a mix. It's a mixed bag. I'm in the zone, but I'm really fighting with the tilt steering controls, because the finer movements are really difficult to do. And when I'm going through a corner, it's a bit like using the steering wheel, so it's okay. But when I want to make those finer movements on the straight, I really struggle with the tilt steering. And I tried every single combination of either we go deeper. You can see the Ghost go ahead of us, unfortunately. We'll see if we can catch it back. I used every combination of input visible to me in the menu until I found something very, very, very interesting. So I tried the directional push buttons, I tried the joystick button as well, and I tried the tilt steering. And you can see here we're going to dive up the inside of the car, but unfortunately my Ghost in the previous lap is going to get a faster time. And this is real, genuine time trialing. So I'm time trialing on my phone, so if they can keep this up with the circuits and the cars handling relatively realistically, that's going to be great. And you can see we go over and it's a 31.5, and I'm actually going to look at my sector times here, and you can see my sector times are pretty realistic in terms of the split. So this is something that you can look at and be like, well, I need to improve a little bit in where do I need to improve, really? Sector 3, because Sector 2 was pretty good, so I lost time in Sector 1 and Sector 3. Now, this is when I had the massive moment. I just happened to try, even though this is the options they give you on the inputs, I happened to try connecting my Xbox controller, and oh my word, now I genuinely have a Gran Turismo-like experience in my pocket. So what you're watching right now is me driving on Infinite Drive on my phone with an Xbox controller connected by Bluetooth, and even though it doesn't show in the UI, they must have really facilitated this directly, because the triggers are incredibly responsive. The amount of detail you get in the accelerator and you get in the brake is crazy. The steering inputs are still a little bit digital, so the triggers feel analog, but the steering feels digital. If they can really nail the steering with an Xbox controller, I think that's going to be the primary way to play the game. And look, this is a game that is purporting to be a game more on the sim side of things, or Simcade side of things, than an arcade game. If you compare it like, I don't know, Asphalt or something, that's kind of pure arcade. So I think they really should be facilitating controllers, because I can genuinely see this becoming a kind of time trial hotspot. Online communities building around this, doing competitions, doing prizes, all that kind of stuff, and that's exactly what they want to do. So you can see here with the Xbox controller, my previous time was what, 131.4, and we're going to go over here and it's going to be a 120, what is it going to be, 26.3 I think it was, which is a much better time. So as soon as I found out the Xbox controller worked, I started having basically everything clicked for me on Infinite Drive. Now my suggestions to them is the controls are very different for every car. Now I'm going to go in here in the 1980 Aston Martin Vantage, I think, and this car doesn't have as good brakes as the GT3 obviously, and if you slam the brakes in this car, the car will basically pull to one side. It will not be able to handle that deceleration, and therefore you want slightly different controls, I think, for this car. It's the same with the steering. The steering on the Aston Martin GT3 is different to the steering on the 1980 Vantage. So I think they should make the car an ability to save your custom controls for each car and save, you know, the sensitivity of your tilt steering or the button steering or the little joypad thing. And if you can save that for every car, I think that would be an absolutely great thing. And again, because they're trying to be a Simcade type of game, I think they should really do this, and I think that'd be a great thing. Now you can see me here again. Well, we're racing in the snow here at Fuji. We're racing backwards at Fuji in the snow. You see my phone again is struggling. I've whacked it on higher settings. But you can race in snow, you can race in the wet as well, and you can race in different daylight conditions, so morning, noon, evening. So they spent a lot of time on the environment and the art of this game, and this bit here, when I was just having a bit of fun on the reverse, and here, by the way, I was testing out the controls on the triggers. You can see just how well I'm able to modulate on the triggers, and that's something that's very hard. That's something that's impossible to do on the touchscreen, because if you think about how you use a touchscreen, you're either pressing or you're not pressing. It's completely digital, whereas the triggers are analog. I can hold it at a certain thing, and it's the same with the brake. I can also hold the brake at a certain thing as well. Now when I was driving here back on the back side at Fuji, it really got me thinking about the free roam part of the game they want to do, and how much fun that is going to be if you can just drive around in free roam with your mates, admiring each other's cars. That could be a really cool thing if they pull it off. Now, so we talked about graphics and we talked about the handling. I think there's definitely pros and cons for both of them. That's going to depend on your setup. If you're playing on a top of the range phone with a controller, I think you're going to have an amazing experience. If you're playing on a budget phone with no controller, I think it's going to be a different experience unless you're really good at, you know, driving a racing game using the touchscreen. So that's all of the traditional stuff about a racing game, but this is where Infinite Drive gets a lot more interesting, a lot more complicated, a lot more futuristic. And that's because the developers really are looking at Infinite Drive as like I said, a racing platform where you can own cars, you can sell cars, you can rent cars, you can be part of clubs, you can drive around in free roam. It's meant to be a very social experience, and this is where I have to kind of go out of my comfort zone of sim racing and look towards the future. And the big thing is that the cars in Infinite Drive are going to be NFTs. Now I know for certain that if Gran Turismo 7 turned around tomorrow and said we're going to have our cars as NFTs, people would be very cynical about that. But I have to try and look at Infinite Drive from a different perspective, because Infinite Drive, when it's fully released, is going to be a free-to-play mobile game. So it's not going to be a premium product where you just have to pay £70 to play it on your console. It's going to be downloadable for free on your phone. So they need to make some money somehow. And normally, I guess the cars would just be DLC that you pay for on a per car basis, like you often get in games like Real Racing 3. Now, if the cars are going to be NFTs, just excluding anything else, to me, I'm not sure that really detracts anything. It's pretty much the same as buying a car as a DLC, except you can, you know, verify it and see it on a blockchain and see that you own it, and maybe it's transferable into some other stuff. But I think where Infinite Drive are really trying to get to, and this is the big question, the big gamble, the big test to see whether this is actually going to work. But I can see what they're trying to do. They're partnering with all of these luxury brands like Aston Martin and Alpine, and they've got these really high quality graphics in the game. If you remember in the garage, you're looking around the car and it looks incredible on a mobile game. And I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to have that sense of ownership of luxury cars. Now, most of us, we're never going to be able to afford an Aston Martin in real life, but we can potentially own an Aston Martin NFT in Infinite Drive and be part of a club, maybe part of an Aston Martin drivers club. We can go free roam and drive our Aston Martins. We can rent out our cars to our friends and people in our communities. And I can see what they're trying to do here. Now, I think in order for that to work, the fundamentals of the game have to be there. And if I think about what Gran Turismo would be like on mobile, like I said at the beginning of the video, I think it would have great graphics. I think it would have a great handling model. I think it would have loads of licensed cars. I think it would have licensed tracks. But I'm not sure what else Gran Turismo would have on mobile. And in many ways, I think Infinite Drive is trying to go further than Gran Turismo would on mobile. And it has that kind of like feeling of Test Drive Unlimited. Test Drive Unlimited, I had on the PSP actually as well. I had Gran Turismo on the PSP, Test Drive Unlimited on the PSP. Test Drive Unlimited was such an ambitious game. The idea of having a whole island that you can drive around all these amazing cars. You could go into garages, you could buy your houses, you had to buy more houses to fit more cars, and we got more cars. And I really get a sense of that DNA in Infinite Drive, and that's the bit that makes me excited, and that's the bit that makes me think maybe this can work. Because there is a real fundamental good handling model, good racing experience at the core of it, maybe people are going to join clubs. Maybe, for example, the community we have around this YouTube channel, maybe that's a good example of what a club would be, and maybe some of us would have cars and we'd rent them out. Maybe we'd have people in the community that are really fast drivers but can't, afford to have the most exclusive NFT cars, and maybe there's other people in the club that can rent them out, and then both people are earning credits or the tokens or whatever. I can sort of see that it might work, and I think it's a lot more acceptable in a free-to-play mobile game as long as the entry point is always free. But it's very much a brave new world, and it's a little bit scary as well to think about it. I'm very, very, very excited though to see if it's going to work. For them to get Aston Martin on board and the other brands, I think it's a great show of confidence that people are having in Infinite Drive. And you can see here, imagine your gallery full of these cars. So let me know in the comments, really, really let me know, what do you think about the social aspect? What do you think about the cars being NFTs? Do you hate that idea? Are you indifferent, you don't care? Or do you think actually this could be quite a cool thing? Let me know, because it's a really exciting time and we're right at the cutting edge here. And yeah, I'm excited to review this game and sort of be on the cusp here, but I don't know how it's going to go down. I can just see, I think, what they're trying to do in terms of getting people excited about having a sense of ownership of luxury cars. Now, that's going to be my review of Infinite Drive. They did give me a prize to give away in this video. Let me find it. So if you want to win a Aston Martin NFT, then there's a couple of steps. They're in the description, but you need to follow the Infinite Drive people on Twitter, join the Discord, post them a screenshot, send them a code, and someone is going to win an Aston Martin NFT. So good luck in that. It's all in the description. But that's my review of Infinite Drive. I think watch this space, and maybe I'll be covering it more. I'll see you very soon.